Hi fans of high quality entertainment. I thought of a new series idea. I don't know, this might be the only video for it, but then again, you never know, I might do another one at some point. And it is comparing two albums, and the one album is better loved by most fans of the band than the other one. And the thing is, for certain albums, I love the less popular or less loved album more than the more popular, more loved album. And so I thought I would show you some samples of what I'm talking about. The Yes album, one of I think the most popular, or one of the most popular Yes albums is Close to the Edge, which of course is amazing. Don't get me wrong, I love the album. But that being said, I love Tales from Topographic Oceans even more than Rick Wakeman does. No, between the two, I would always play this one a lot more than Close to the Edge. Plus it's a double, so there's more music. But, you know, I did struggle with this album at first it took me a few years to really get into Genesis. It took me a few years to really get into Yes. And so it took me a few listens to truly appreciate this, but it is now absolutely one of my favorite Yes albums. And like I said, this one's great too, but in my rankings, Tales would be above Close to the Edge. One of the biggest bands from the late 60s and early 70s, and they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I'm not going to complain about that. Not here. And one of their most loved albums and best-selling albums is We're an American Band. But I love their 1971 album, Survival, more than We're an American Band, even though We're an American Band is great. This one, it took me a long time to appreciate, and I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I guess when this was remastered, I started to warm up to it, and it is now possibly my favorite, along with the Red album, Grand Funk album. Don't Mind the Neighbors. 10cc. One of their most loved albums is the original soundtrack with I'm Not in Love. I had to make sure it was on there. I like this on the side. I don't know if you can read that. The origin, they spell it wrong, the original soundtrack. But I love their final album with the 4 original members, How Dare You, much, much more. Frank Zappa, one of his most popular and loved albums is Apostrophe, which is great. I love it. But I love Bongo Fury featuring Captain Beefheart even more. The Rolling Stones. Let It Bleed, which is good. It's just never been one of my favorite Rolling Stones albums, but I know it's much loved by a lot of Rolling Stones fans. I love Goat's Head Soup more. I think it's very underrated. And as good as Trout Mask Replica is by Captain Beefheart, it's one of the most bizarre albums and one of the most loved bizarre albums of all time. I listen to Shiny Beast, Bat Chain Puller a lot more, and so I love this album more than Trout Mask Replica. Blue Oyster Cult, their best-selling album, or yeah, I think along with Fire of Unknown Origin, their best-selling album, Agents of Fortune, with the song Don't Fear the Reaper, which you may have heard of. It's great, great album, but I prefer their follow-up, Spectres, even more. The only downside to this is the production was kind of murky, but I mean, the songs were great. Time to do a Beatles solo. Possibly his most loved album in his solo career, with Wings, or even without Wings. Band on the Run. Yep, it says right there, Paul McCartney and Wings. And this is a superb album. I love it. But I love Chaos and Creation in the Backyard even more. Talking Heads, their most loved album, I believe, is Remain in Light, which is great. But I prefer their third album, Remain in Light, which I have played a lot. Speaking of Yes, John Anderson, his first solo album, Olaus of Sunhill. Try saying that 3 times. So this was the first solo album of John Anderson's I ever bought, I believe. But anyway, I've played this so much. I love it so much. And he plays all of the instruments on it. Just an amazing talent. And then about a month ago, I got his second album, Song of Seven, which I had read was good, but it was kind of a disappointing follow-up to Olaus. And I have played this album, I believe, almost every night since I bought it. So like for the last 3 weeks, I think I've played it every night. And it's a little more commercial, especially the first few songs, but side 2 of the vinyl, the final 4 songs, Everybody Loves You, Take Your Time, Days, and Song of Seven. It is one of my favorite sides. If this was vinyl, it's one of my favorite sides of an album ever. And yeah. Two more. Of course, Lou Reed's most popular and most loved album is Transformer, produced by David Bowie, and it's great. I love it. But one of his less popular albums, I love more than Transformer, The Bells. And I have played this a lot. And finally, the debut album from the band, Music from Big Pink, highly rated by their fans. And this album, which I love more than this one, was considered a disappointment when it came out. And it took me a long time to warm up to it, but it is my favorite, the band album, Cahoots. Very underrated. So that's it. That's just a few. So in the comment section below, it doesn't have to be about these albums, just maybe list a few of your choices of albums that are more popular, but you prefer the less popular of the band's albums. So, or you can talk about the ones I just mentioned. But for you progressive rock fans, check out the early John Anderson solo albums. They are amazing. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.